So today, we're going to dive deep into the raw mechanics of political power. How is it actually won? How do you hold on to it? And maybe most importantly, how does it all just slip away? We're going to break down the theory by looking at it in action through a really fascinating case study. Let's get right into it.
And this question right here is really the heart of it all. The source material puts this front and center, and it perfectly frames our entire analysis. We're looking past the policies, past the debates, and into the symbolic acts that really define a leader's strength or their weakness.
Okay, so to really get what's going on here, we have to kind of shift our perspective. Forget what you know about the debate club. We need to think of politics as an arena. Our source, drawing from Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power, defines it as this ruthless place where power is seized, defended, or lost. It's never shared, never borrowed. In this arena, every single move counts.
So let's kick things off with our first section, power as a performance. This is all about the idea that authority isn't just about what's real, it's about what people perceive to be real.
According to our source material, the Speaker of the House, Mike John, really built his initial power by playing a very specific part. He projected this image of discipline, of moral certainty, exactly what his base wanted to see. And in the game of power, that image, that performance, is everything. It's basically your currency.
But here's the catch, and it's a big one. That performance only works as long as you can control what happens next. As Robert Greene reminds us, loyalty isn't forever. It's totally conditional, and it can disappear the second a leader starts to look weak.
Okay, let's move on and see how this starts to play out. We're going to look at the first real event that started to show the weakness hiding just beneath the surface.
9, it doesn't sound like a lot, does it? But in a political arena with margins this thin, 9 is an absolute catastrophe. This wasn't just a loss on a bill, it was a bright flashing signal that the Speaker's control was no longer guaranteed.
And how it happened is so important. This vote was forced onto the floor using something called a discharge petition, which is a move specifically designed to go around leadership. The source argues this was a straight-up test of Mike John's authority, a test of obedience, and he failed it right out in the open.
And this quote just nails the consequence, doesn't it? It wasn't really about the healthcare bill itself, it was about the precedent it set. The moment people in your own party feel like they can defy you and get away with it, well, your power is in serious, serious trouble. A line has been crossed.
Which brings us right to our third section. What happens when these little internal problems spill out and become huge public spectacles?
You start to see a pattern emerging here, right? This wasn't just one bad vote. It was trying to block a healthcare vote, trying to stop these really sensitive subpoenas, even just trying to keep basic order on the House floor, and the outcome was always failure. Public defeats like this just hand momentum to your opponents.
Okay, let's zoom in on the Epstein subpoenas because this was an absolutely critical moment. The source argues that power is also about controlling information. So by trying and failing to block these subpoenas, Mike John didn't just lose some procedural fight. He showed fear, and he lost control of a completely radioactive narrative.
So the big takeaway here is this. Every single public law sends a message to both your friends and your enemies. It tells them the leader is vulnerable. And in the arena of power, vulnerability is basically an open invitation for more attacks.
All right, let's move to Section 4 and check out how a leader's own words can start to give away their weakening position.
So, after the killing of Renee Nicole Good, you have this moment that just demanded some sort of moral clarity. But our source points out that Mike John used this very abstract, deflecting language. He talked about weaponized vehicles instead of focusing on the actual human victim at the center of the story.
And that matters. It matters a lot, because when leaders use vague language in a crisis, people can tell they're avoiding responsibility. It just sounds evasive, and that evasion absolutely shatters trust.
And then you get a moment like this. When he was asked point blank about his incredibly fragile majority, Mike John didn't talk about strategy or politics. No, he brought up the divine, comparing his own political problem to Moses parting the Red Sea.
So what's the analysis here? Well, our source says this is a classic tell, a signal of real desperation. When a leader can't point to actual results or show they're in control, they start appealing to destiny. It's a way to try and put themselves beyond criticism, but really, it just shows everyone how little earthly power they actually have left.
And that brings us to our final section, where all these pieces come together and we look at the ultimate result of collapsing authority.
According to the source, this all leaves Mike John in a totally impossible spot. He's trapped. Every move he could make is a political landmine. He can't control the votes, he can't control the committees, and he definitely can't control the story being told about him. The very foundations of his power have just crumbled on all fronts.
And here's why this should matter to all of us. This is bigger than just one politician's career. When a leader's authority falls apart like this, it creates a power vacuum. And as we know, both nature and politics can't stand a vacuum. That empty space, it almost always gets filled by chaos, by extremism, and by the most radical voices in the room.
The source ends its analysis with this one simple, chilling line. It suggests that when the fall from power finally happens, it seems sudden, but only to the people at the center of it, even though, as we've just laid out, the cracks were appearing for a long, long time. A final provocative thought to leave you with.